welcome back Deb DeArmond.
Weddings have become such a big business. There's more time and energy and money invested in preparing for the wedding than there is for the marriage.
And pass it on. Share the gospel clear and strong. Stand for, claim your heritage of truth.
Welcome to Heritage of Truth. Today we welcome back Deb DeArmond. Welcome, Deb.
Good to be with you, Jeanne.
It's great to have you back. Now you have a new book called I Choose You Today, 31 Choices to Make Love Last.
Yep.
Now I know this is a wonderful book because I read it before it came out.
You did.
And I endorsed it.
Yes, you did. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It is a fantastic book. I think just about every couple in America needs this book. It is wonderful. So where did the idea for I Choose You Today originate?
Do you know, about year 3 or 4 of our marriage, one morning when we were making the bed, my husband looked at me across the top of the coverlet and said, I choose you today, babe. And I said, what do you choose me for? He said, I just choose you. And out the door he went. And that became a pattern. And he had read something in a book by Dr. Edwin Lewis Cole. And he said, love and marriage is a choice. And sometimes you have to re-up. And I'm looking back, I'm thinking, I wonder if there was an issue that he needed to remind himself it was still his choice. But I began to pick up that same pattern. And then there were days that there was something specific. I choose to encourage you today with this difficult situation at work, or I choose to pray for you during this this time that your mom is so ill. And they became a little bit more specific. And then 2 years ago, on the beach in California on a family vacation with all of our sons and their families surrounding us, we were having photographs made. And when it was the turn for just he and I, she positioned us, head up, shoulders back, and then said, okay, now turn and face one another. And when I did, he was in the sand. And I thought, oh, Lord, he's having a stroke or a heart attack or something. And when I looked at his face, it was clear he was not in distress. And he said, I love you. And he said, if you knew then, 38 years ago, what you know now, would you still say yes? Would you still choose me today? And I know what all those words mean individually, Jeanne, but I couldn't put them together and make sense out of it. And the kids are clapping and stomping, and clearly they'd been on it and were the world's worst secret keepers. And then he pulled a ring box out of his pocket and opened it, and he said, would you still marry me, knowing what you know the 38 years would hold? And I negotiated the lump in my throat and said, absolutely. And so when we talked about it later, I said, where did that come from? He said, well, I never really proposed to you. We just started making wedding plans. We knew. And every girl should have a proposal story. I wanted you to have one, even if it's a little late. I know. He's the romantic in this twosome. I'm the pragmatic.
Wow.
And so I blogged about it, and people started asking us about it. Well, what kinds of things specifically do you choose? And we sat down and made a list together, and it was 31. And the Lord said, write it. And so it was great, good fun. The stories are not all ours. Lots of couples generously shared their magic and their tragic with us, and they found their way into the book.
That's great. What a story.
Yeah.
So you write about the importance of communicating your commitment.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
When I look back at 19, the day I wore the big white dress and he wore the yellow tuxedo, which seemed like a good idea at the time, Jeanne, but looking back, not so much. I don't even know that we understood what we were saying, I do too. How could you possibly know?
Yeah.
You don't think about kids with ear infections crying at 3 o'clock in the morning and helping elderly parents from this life to the next, and layoffs and second mortgages. You don't really have a clue. And I think for a lot of couples, they go in very unprepared. Frankly, weddings have become such a big business. There's more time and energy and money invested in preparing for the wedding than there is for the marriage.
That's right.
And I think for lots of us, that commitment made that day was made without the real understanding of what we were heading into. And so just communicating that commitment, even in the midst of that kind of thing, I think really strengthens you, and you make that choice. And I said sometimes I've made it with a kiss and a hug, and sometimes through gritted teeth, because love and marriage, when it works, is work. It's not a set of feelings. Truth is the basis for, God's word is the basis for truth, not feelings.
That's right. Very good. Well, can reciting a simple phrase really make any difference?
It's not magic, but I have to tell you that I believe words matter. They matter to God. He wrote them. He had them written down for us to hide in our heart.
And Jesus is called the Word.
And Jesus is called the living Word.
Yeah.
God spoke the worlds into existence. We're grafted into the family of Christ through a confession of our mouth. James 3:5 in the Message says that words may seem of no matter, but they have the ability to accomplish nearly anything or destroy it. And Proverbs reminds us that the power of life and death are in the tongue.
Right.
I do think that it matters. I think it brings us back to sort of center. And while they're not magic, they're important reminders for our heart and our head. Because we had agreed it's going to be one and done. There's no plan B for this twosome. And there were times when that might have been a discussion if we hadn't made that decision and continued to renew our commitment.
Yeah. So what is the premise of the book?
The premise is that in short chapters that tell a story, they're all true stories, they're not all ours, we explore the various choices. I choose to support you. I choose to submit to you, which was really an interesting one to write. I choose to be patient. I choose to romance you. He's the romantic, I'm not. Those choices, those stories, help to illustrate what it can do in a marriage. And then there's obviously scripture basis for all of it. At the end of each chapter, there are some questions that, if a couple works through it together, create some conversation, because I think communication's a key.
Oh, yes.
And then a prayer that they can pray together. And I've had people say, well, what if only one spouse is interested in working through the book? I think that if you change your behavior and you give that to God, let God deal with the result. You're not on the hook for that.
That's definitely true. Now, is this a girls' book, or is it something men would read on their own, do you think?
Do you know, because they're short chapters, I think men perhaps might have a greater tendency to read it, the short attention span theater, if you will. And the two of the three endorsements on the cover of the book are from men who said, this was practical, it was engaging, and yeah, I would definitely read it. I know it's being used for a lot of Bible studies for women and some couples groups as well. So while I tend to think it could end up as a girl's book, my hope is that some men either read it or are the beneficiaries of their wife having read it.
Yeah, that's good. There are a lot of books on building a great marriage.
It's crowded.
But why is this one unique?
I do think it's unique because it's not a book of shoulds. One of my favorite reviews says, Deb doesn't should all over you. She tells story that help you see the benefit of that particular choice. And then she gives you some scriptural basis to stand on and some practical tips to put it into practice right away. I think that that's probably one of the keys. My husband and I are not psychologists. We're not professional counselors, although both of us have counseled and coached in the church and in business for years. And I do think that the short chapters allow people to really start anywhere in the book with maybe their greatest need and work on that one and then go to the next one. So it does not have to be read chronologically. My guess is that there are people who will read 12 or 14 of them because that's their need and not perhaps even read the rest. It wouldn't matter.
That'd be really good for busy moms, too.
Well, and that's how we read today, Jeanne. We read in short bursts. You could read one of these chapters in the carpool line waiting for your kids or waiting on an airplane in the airport. It's not the kind of deep reading that you have to read that paragraph 2 times to really get what it says. We're pretty plain-spoken people at my house. It's written that way.
I found it an enjoyable read, and it wasn't a difficult read, but there are definitely some things that were convicting.
Well, there's meat.
That's good.
There's meat there. And I've had some interesting conversations with women and men, too, who said, you challenged me, and I didn't much care for that. It wasn't that comfortable for me. I think we learn best when that discomfort sets in and we're aware of it. And we can say, there's a message there for me I need to look at.
Yeah, and there are definitely many great messages in this book. So, any last thoughts on this book or what you want to share with the audience about marriage?
I don't think I choose you today is necessarily magic, but I do believe that choosing your spouse every day has an element of magic to it. When we sign up for marriage, so often we really don't have a clue what we're signing up for. A lot of things take us by surprise, and surprises are only really good at your birthday. The rest of the time, they may be pretty upsetting. But if you make the choice for your marriage aligned with the Word of God, it says in His Word that it never returns without a result. So what have you got to lose? Make a choice today. Choose your spouse. Be specific and purposeful. Let him do the rest.
Great words. So where can people find you online?
They can find me at debdearmond.com, DebDearmond.com. And they can find the book there and at all the usual places, Amazon, ChristianBooks.com, Barnes & Noble, and in your local Christian bookseller as well.
Thank you so much for being our guest
Jeanne.
again.
Great to be with you.
Share